I don't really talk about football very much on the channel anymore. We're trying to streamline it. We're trying to go down the film, TV, comic book route with it. That's the way it used to be. And then it just evolved into so many other things. And now we're trying to just hit home on the comic book, TV, and film related content. That's the stuff we want to make overall. That's the stuff we're really interested in together, Nonsensei and I. And that's what we're going to do. But today, I'm going to have to break that because for some reason, Son Heung-Min Son, the South Korean king, was not in the PFA Team of the Year. This is shocking stuff. I've not seen something so outrageous since... well, I can't remember since when, because it is that ludicrous that the fact that the Golden Boot winner, the person who scored the most goals in the Premier League, the most lethal player in the league, potentially one of the most lethal in Europe, didn't get nominated for Player of the Year, number one, but the fact he didn't even get into the Team of the Year doesn't make sense. Now, when you go through it, you can say, yeah, Ronaldo had a good season considering he was playing for United, much better than what most people would have expected. But Son had a great season compared to any standards. He had a great season, even compared to Mane. Son had a better season than Mane. And when you compare him to Salah, in my opinion, Son should have won the Golden Boot outright. And I've had this thing about penalties long before this Son situation with Salah and him both sharing the Golden Boot, because Salah scored 5 penalties and Son scored none. For me, that should be an outright win for Son. But I've said this for years, penalties should not count in terms of your goal count, but they should count in game as an advantage to the team. It's a weird situation. Most people will probably disagree with me on that, and that's fine, but I don't think penalties should be counted to someone's goal tally, but they should count within the game itself. Say what you want. I can be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong, and I'm willing to admit defeat on that point. But Salah and Son both finished on 23 goals. For some reason, Salah won PFA Player of the Year. I don't understand how, considering Salah had a trash second half of the season. He didn't have a bad month. He didn't have a bad 2 months or 3 months like Harry Kane. Salah had a bad 4 months. Ever since he came back from the African Cup of Nations, he's been all over the place, and not in a good way, not like all over the pitch, he's been running shit down. No, he's been playing relatively poorly. I think Liverpool would have won the title if Salah had even had half the form that he had in the first half of the season. Now, don't get me wrong, he scored 23 goals anyway, 17 in open play. He had an incredible first half of the season. I'm not taking that away from him. But Son was much more consistent throughout the whole season. Now, the argument could be made that, well, these votes go in April, in May, and Son scored a ton of goals in April and May, and maybe that's why people didn't really vote for him as PFA Player of the Year or even in the Team of the Year. But even when you take into account from March, before that point, he was still in the top goal scoring charts anyway. He was still in the top 10 assist makers in all likelihood at that point. So I don't get how he cannot have been in that team. It doesn't make sense. I would even argue Harry Kane should have been in that team over Ronaldo. Maybe even over Mane. I don't know. I can be wrong, like I said. But when you look at Son's goal contributions as 30, 23 goals, 7 assists in 34 or 35 games, and you look at that goal contribution count proportionately to Tottenham's goals, he makes up a huge proportion of Spurs' goals versus Salah, where he scored 23 and assisted 12. An incredible feat, don't get me wrong. But when you look at the overall play of Liverpool, they had so many players scoring so many goals that, in my opinion, Son contributed more to his team and the league overall than Salah did to Liverpool. Now, if Liverpool had won the league, then I would say, yeah, Salah deserved to win, Salah deserved to win. But they didn't win the league. They didn't. And because of that, I'm missing something also, just to point this out. Rodri should have been in the Team of the Year. I don't know how Thiago gets in there ahead of Rodri, but that's just the way it is. The players voted. This is how it works. And I think I'm going to have to look at these things with much less weight, because they don't mean as much when someone like Son, who was categorically one of the 2 best players at minimum in the league this season, one of the 2 best players, doesn't get into the Team of the Year. How, Sway? How? In fact, I don't want to know. All I want to know is Spurs playing in the Champions League next year. I think, actually, I'm going to put a bet on them to win the league next year. I'm going to take the dive. The odds have been coming down. I thought about this last week and the odds were 30-1. Now they're 16-1. And I'm sitting here like a numpty, like, you dumb bitch. You should have just put the bet on a week ago. But now Spurs been doing some transfer business. Spurs looking like a decent outfit now, as opposed to 18 months ago. And hey, other people are saying, oh, Spurs might be able to do something. It's more in hope than in reality, but I'll take the hope any day of the week. Son, my guy, you deserve it. You also deserve to be taking the Spurs free kicks. So next season, please, don't let anyone else take them apart from you. Unless Christian Eriksen's there. In that case, well, the Great Dane, he can have a kick of the ball.